I've learned to embrace all the emotions. Don't run away from sadness, from grief, from frustration. Feel those and transform those into something. Allow yourself to have a different routine. Like today I want to have a slow morning. Today I want to start working just after lunch. Because being busy doesn't mean that you are going to be productive. When you do something that you like, even when you are tired, you are able to keep going. I started to think maybe I can cure myself again. Let's see, I don't have anything to lose. So I didn't take those antidepressants and I did food therapy again and some herbology also. And more or less 6 months after 7, I felt that I was back to me again. If you went a day and you don't remember what you did, for me, that's not meaningful.
You just heard a few moments of my conversation with Joana Castro, who walked through burnout and found her way back by studying traditional Chinese medicine and using food therapy to heal. In this episode, we explore how she blends clinical nutrition with energetics, how to market depth in a quick fix culture by choosing the right audience, and how to redesign work around rhythms, creative versus structural days, even slow mornings, so busy doesn't pretend to be productive. This is Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm your host, Nikhil Vaish, founder and CEO of Boost Solo. My next guest is a creative polymath who traded debugging at Microsoft for debugging bodies with ancient food wisdom, proving that the best reinventions feed your soul and actually feed you properly too. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's lovely to have you here, and I'm excited for our conversations because you've had quite a reinvention, so to speak, right? So let me start by asking you. So you told me that you made this incredibly mature decision at 18 to pursue science first because you knew you could come back to music later. Now, I remember most teenagers can barely decide what to have for breakfast. So where did that wisdom come from?
I don't know where it come from. Actually, I always had this vision when I was a little girl, and I can even place myself back to those days where I was just at the zoo with my family, and I would imagine my life, like how I would like to live, the years that I would have ahead, and I would be like 3, 4 years, and I always imagine myself doing two things. I remember I had this immense passion for music. So I would imagine myself doing something related to music. Back then, I didn't know the difference between being a songwriter, um, just playing an instrument, being a singer. For me, it would be just the same. I wanted to be on stage and create something. I remember that. But the other side of my brain would like to be a scientist because I'm extremely curious and I like to learn complex things. So I was always divided by this, but I remember, um, I think here in Portugal, we have this very classical way of studying. So you follow this path when you are at school. And I don't think arts are very people do not get incentivized to go and pursue that path. So for me, it was okay. I'm going to follow this. I remember maybe I was 14, 15 when I first time I was talking with my mother, and I said to her, I think that I know what I will do with my life because back then we had to choose before going to junior high. We had to choose the area. Here in Portugal, we need to do that. So we need to decide if we want to have subjects in science, in arts, in history. So it will be different groups. And I remember that I went to the psychologist and they did some tests, and the arts and the science, they were so high, but they were like they were at the same high actually. It did not help me because I wanted to have that I wanted to have that answer from someone like, no, you need to go to science. This is so clear. And yeah, it just confirmed the doubt that I had inside already. But I remember saying to my mother, I think that I know what I'm going to do. And I just realized this actually a couple of months ago. I'm going to pursue science because if I do not pursue science right now, I will not be able to get back because you need to have that train of thought regarding math, physics, biology, everything. And if you stop for, I don't know, 2 years, it's like you need to crack the code again from the beginning.
Right.
And I don't know why, but art, it's a little bit like riding a bike. Once you learn it, you can go back very easily. Even if you don't play a song for a while, your ear will be so attentive, like, no, this is not a note. No, actually this is not even tuned. Or I don't remember how to play this. Hey, let me go back to, I don't know, to my notes, to my sketch, or even to the music sheet. And I think it's more intuitive and science is very logical. So I remember saying that to my mother. And I carry on with my life. And 15 years later was when I was thinking about my life and thinking, why did I choose this path? Like questioning everything in my life. Then I remember, oh, yeah, I said that actually. Okay. So I was pretty mature for sure, but okay. I carry on like that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, honestly, you're way ahead because like I was still struggling and figuring it out in my 50s, which is okay. But and I also love the analogy you made, right? Because you're right. You can learn to ride a bicycle at any time in life, right?
Yeah,
But how to build a bicycle, you probably it's better to learn earlier on, right? So
exactly. It's
that
so different.
it is, and you use different parts of your brain. And I think also, I
Mm-hmm.
think science to back this, that in your early years, like even languages, they say, you absorb and learn
Yeah.
better and faster when you're younger, right? In terms of
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
perhaps the brain cells slow down. But so let me ask you now in terms of the other thing you talked to me about was,
Mm-hmm.
burnout. So before we talk about your burnout, let me ask you to rewind to the Joanna before burnout and before balance, right? What was
Mm-hmm.
driving back then? Tell me a little bit about that.
Um, you know what? I don't have a specific moment. Um, I think I was pretty happy when I finished college. I finished with an excellent grade. I told you that when so I have 2 different degrees,
Yeah,
almost, yeah, three, but back at the time I had 2 different degrees. And when I finished the first one, I was at my fourth year at nuclear medicine, and I was doing my third or fourth internship at a hospital. When I realized that I couldn't do that for a job, so I had to kind of pivot. And back then, I was so much stress inside of me. I now realize that, but back then was just keep going, because you are at that phase of your life that you cannot stop. It's if this is not working, you need to find a workaround. So I went back to what I really wanted to pursue, and I remember that was the only time when I first chose nuclear medicine that I didn't follow my intuition. Because again, I was into science, physics, all of that, and suddenly I went to nuclear medicine that is under health. Because it was 2008, the economic crash happened, and
yeah,
everyone was saying you need to go to health because you are not going to have any job if you are going to engineer or even art, whatever it is, you need to go to health. People are going to need you. And I was going back um, to that feeling of responsibility that you start to gain when you are a young teenager entering the adult life. So it's not just about following the dreams, it's like realizing that I actually need to have a job. So this is on me. So I chose nuclear medicine, but on my fourth year, I realized I couldn't do that for a living. So I started to go back, and I did a little bit of this exercise that I did after the burnout, but I was like, okay, what do you like to do? And what was your first intention when you follow the science was to become an engineer. And biomedical engineering was like the answer to my prayers because it was everything. It was biology, physics, computer science, everything. It was, some people say that is one of the hardest degrees to get.
Right.
Some people even say, I quit, I couldn't, that too many subjects, too many different subjects, and we speak all the languages. And I was like, that was so much fun. I
Yeah.
would feel stimulated every single day. But I remember when I did a change, the um, the principal at the college, he said, I don't know if you are going to make it because you went 4 years into a different degree that is health. You had this baggage of science, but I know if it is not enough because you've been attached to other subjects like biology, chemistry. I don't know if you are going to make it because you need to go back to raw math, raw physics, uh, electronics. Um, but yeah, we are going to test it out. So I remember that I did uh, 4 years of that degree in 2 years. People were having like 4 or 5 subjects per semester. I was having 8, 9.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So back then, I remember being so, so, so tired. And but since I liked it, that is something really interesting that I realized after is when you do something that you like, even when you are tired, you are able to keep going. And then I did my master degrees on atomic and molecular physics. And on that last year, um, I started to be recruited by Microsoft.
Right.
And for me was I didn't even know that I could land Microsoft because I thought I need to be a software engineer for sure, not a biomedical engineer. But I started to look up at the company. I was like, no, no, maybe I can actually. Oh, wait a minute. They have a lot of different things that I would like to do here. So I got really interested. I started to be recruited. I finished my degree meanwhile. They back then when you were a graduate, they would do these um several interviews and several group dynamics. It would be 1 year, 1 year and a half. um Regarding recruiting was very exhaustive.
Yeah.
You would almost forget that you were being recruited, to be honest. But like, oh wait, I have an email from Microsoft HR.
Right.
And I remember that once I finished, I was recruited by another company. Meanwhile, I started to work, and then I got the okay from Microsoft, and I was so happy. And I think that was almost like reaching the peak of the mountain, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So the first 2 years were amazing. Uh, the engine was on, 100%, 24/7. But then something happened after a little bit before COVID when I moved to a team that was mostly remote.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that impact, that could have such an impact in my life, in my mental health. COVID started and we went fully remote. Everyone. I was a little bit used to it, but something inside of me started to die a little bit. Like I would I would be at home. I didn't have an interaction with my colleagues. Everything was so impersonal, you know. Um, and suddenly I started to think, what am I doing? I was pretty good at my job, but I was starting to be really unhappy. I would take on different projects and focus on that project, and I would be really happy. Dopamine, good. And then at the end of the project, I would be like, okay, another one done. Now what? What am I doing here? What is my goal? And every time that I wanted to pivot to research, because that was my main goal at Microsoft was doing research, for some reason I couldn't. And then yeah, then I had the burnout, not only due to um, exhaustion, but also due to some personal exhaustion, And I think the accumulation of several years, because I don't think it's a single event. It's when you accumulate over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think those were the several moments that led to that specific crucial changing life moment for me.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. As you're talking, I'm thinking about this, and I've had a conversation with a few other Gen Zers, and it's so interesting that they follow. You just mentioned that you sort of reached the pinnacle, right, the peak, but that
Yeah,
was path that was designed for our parents' generation, right, where you found a thing, and like you have to specialize. You got to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. Then you go get a job and stay steady and safe and get a paycheck and keep going, right?
yeah,
But that model is now broken, right, in many
it
ways.
is.
And also, like, it was very interesting to me what you said, which and our parents mean well, right? For them, it was like they
Yeah.
were trying to give us the best advice that they knew, which is, this is how you build security and safety and family.
Mm-hmm.
But the world changed dramatically from the time they
Yes.
to where we are today. And you said
Mm-hmm.
something I thought it was very interesting, was like, you weren't unhappy at Microsoft. You had good time, you learned a lot, but you felt dead inside. And you just sort of mentioned
Yeah.
that a little bit right now too. Is like, you do the project, you get the dopamine, and then what? But it didn't give you, you didn't feel happy inside, right? Um,
Exactly. Because I think one thing that happens, and nobody prepares to do this. When you are, at least it happened for me. I was one of those nerds and geeks that love school. I really enjoy school. I had friends. I would enjoy learning different subjects every single day. Paradise for me. Um, but then when you enter a company, you are assigned a project. Even if it's under your study, you are assigned a project. And most of the times you don't choose. It's whatever the person that managed the company needs. Okay, I need you to do this, right? So you are hired to do the job. And this is the interesting part. You need to, in the beginning, you kind of get really wrapped up about finishing something and look, I did a good job, here it is. But with time, you start to think about, okay, am I doing this job for whom? But 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 what does this project means to me besides the payroll and the skills that you build and even the social skills also that you have the opportunity to acquire? But what does that specific project means to you? And I think most of us, we need to be really honest about it. And I think even our um, managers know that. People are there because of the payroll, because I don't think everyone, I don't know, dreamt when they were 7, oh, I'm going to build this project on Agile. This is my dream job. It's like, oh, yep. And this is going to be, um, we'll have an overlap here and I will have to talk with that team. Nobody, no. And nobody teaches you actually how to do the job in college. You acquire some skills at college that is like survival, and then you enter the job world and it's like, oh, this is not what I signed for. I didn't think it was like this. And so, yeah, and I think that our generation acquires knowledge in a very quick way. And I don't think um, the corporate world sometimes is designed to that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. And the tools you have available for building knowledge weren't there in my generation, right? I mean, in terms
Yes.
of Wikipedia, the internet, now AI. But it's also interesting what you said. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, no, I don't know any kid who's like, I want to master Linux when I grow up, right? Or I want to be the queen of .NET. So you're right. It's not something somebody like,
Maybe one person is like, oh no, that was my goal.
maybe that was Bill Gates, right? And maybe no one else. Yes,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. It's like, we don't think about those things. And I think the corporate world's almost gotten left behind in terms of the structure, the incentives, the meaning, like you said. It's very hard to find that within the corporate world, or it's very rare, I should say. And companies aren't designed to sort of give you that, right? It's a contract. I pay you, you do the work I tell you to
I
do.
think that it will depend on the company. I think, for instance, not only Microsoft, you have other companies that value their employees.
Yeah.
And it's not about they have really good compensations. And look, I had a good payroll, a great team. I had like the dream job and dream opportunity over there for sure. Um, but I think it's more about the purpose. It will depend. I think you can split this in two type of groups: the people that study or acquire the skills, and they are really good at helping others achieve the vision that they have. But then you have others that have the vision. The people that have the vision are the ones that are going to struggle,
Yeah.
because those are the ones that they dream a lot. It doesn't mean that they are unhappy. It doesn't mean that they are not compensated and not valued. They are. They At least it happened for me. I had amazing managers. Um, but when you start to daydream a lot with, I would love to do this and I would love to do this, though that group is the one that is going to suffer. And I think that there are a lot of people over there that have dreams, and that's okay to have dreams. Um, but let's be honest, having dreams doesn't pay you at the end of the month, at least in the beginning. So you kind of need to have a plan in between, yes.
Yeah, true. No, I like the way you put that. I'm not poo-pooing the corporate world. That's one structure. And I think
It is.
people are looking for other options now, right?
Yes.
Also, the way where the world is today, that is available in a way it's never been available before, right? And we'll get into that, the solopreneur journey. So you've been very open about your burnout. So, and you
Yeah.
talked about, finding traditional Chinese medicine during COVID. So I guess what I'm
Yeah.
trying to help me understand, was that part of a healing discovery, or was it a calling that you didn't see coming?
Both. Yeah, that was both. I discovered Chinese medicine a little bit before by accident. So I had a colleague that would insist that I would have to try acupuncture. And I was like, maybe one day. And suddenly one day I was feeling very exhausted, tired, and I was like, okay, give me the number of your doctor, and I really want to try. And I wow, it was amazing. I would feel like energy moving from one part of the body to the other. And I was until back then I was that person that was very scientific, and I couldn't explain that. I started to imagine like molecules moving, and I got really interested in TCM. I felt amazing. It started to be something that I would go once, twice per month, and it would help me a lot. But when I think one thing that helped me to crash my health actually was back then I was following a diet that I do not recommend to anyone. That was the microbiotic diet.
Right.
And as a woman, it is one of the worst diets that you can follow because we lack a lot of nutrients. But I was feeling great in the beginning because it was a great detox, from a lot of beers, eating a lot of stuff. Sometimes your body needs to detox. And I followed that for 1 year. After 1 year, I I didn't have my period. And that extended for 2 years.
Well,
That happened during COVID. So when I first started to get my first appointments, it was already 6 months without having my period. I was having almost a panic attack because if you didn't have COVID, you wouldn't have any appointment back then. And I was like, I need to find a solution. When I first got my first appointment, I remember that the doctor said, you need to take hormones, you need to take the pill. This is completely normal. And those answers didn't make much sense for me.
right.
I went to the second, third, fourth doctor, the same thing. And back then I was like, okay, what if Chinese medicine has other modalities, besides acupuncture? So I started to research, and since it was COVID and it was the good thing about COVID, everything went online. They had their first degree on TCM food therapy, and it was delivered by a Canadian college. So I would work during the day and I would study at the end of the day and night that degree. And I took the degree during the COVID, the 2 years, and it was a great compliment. Since I had two different degrees back then, for me it was like a compliment to everything that I knew. So I was able, with food therapy, I remember that I was the final project of my degree. Like, I need to cure myself. That's why I'm here. And I delivered the final meal plan and things that I needed to change to the to the teacher. And she said, "That's on point, Joanna." And I followed that. And 6 months after that, and I would do some acupuncture here and there, but it was not the main character. I remember that 6 months after I was cured. So I went just with food therapy, and that changed my mind in a way that I was like, wait a minute, why nobody's saying anything about this? So that was the first time that I started to apply TCM. And after that, I did that every single day on my life. And I think that actually helped me to postpone a little bit the burnout that I had. But life happened. So we have COVID. A lot of things happened in my personal life regarding family. I was so exhausted. So it was, like I said before, it was an accumulation of so many things
Right.
that on January last year, I went to the doctor, and she not said that I had a burnout. She said, "You have a severe burnout." And I was like, cool, cool, that's cool. So what about now? And she was like, now you need to take pills and some antidepressants, right? Cool stuff. And I had several friends that, unfortunately, they would take those pills on a daily basis, and I saw how they work, and they were like spectrums of what they used to be. And
Right.
I was like thinking, I don't want to be that. I want to be me. So for the second time, I was like, if I was able to do this before to restore my period, something that normal doctors were not able, just with hormones or the pill, um, the birth control pill, very specifically, that is very bad for women, actually. Um, I started to think maybe I can cure myself again. Let's see, I don't have anything to lose. So I didn't take those antidepressants, and I did food therapy again and some herbology also. And more or less 6 months after seven, I I I felt that I was back to me again. So yeah, that was the journey that in part I found kind of a purpose, because I would feel this passion whenever I would talk about TCM. For me, it would be like my eyes would light up like TCM is amazing. Like I was in a cult. I don't know. Uh, people that would hurt me were like, "Are you in a cult? Are you trying to evangelize the word of TCM?" But it was like, "But this works really. You need to try this." And then I started to realize that I had so many questions in my head, what I was doing with my life. I don't know if it is about when you start your 30s that you start to question your life. And then I found, okay, maybe I can do this for a living. And yeah, I started my own True Balance. I started to do the site while I was recovering. Because then I realized that you need to start doing something, otherwise you go crazy. It will depend on the stage of your burnout. Stage one, you cannot do anything, you are dead. Stage two, you start to um, analyze the emotions and process a lot of things. Stage three, I think you start to. This is not clinic. This is just my experience. Stage three, you start to integrate again into society and uh, try to reclaim your identity.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I'm glad you do light up when you talk about it. So that's yeah, and you can't fake that, right? And the other thing I actually love about your generation is like, and you're like the third or fourth person I've spoken to, on these podcasts, who's basically said, I got this answer. And I was like, no, there has to be a better, or it has to be a different way, right? It's not better.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, people are just sort of put their blinders on and say, okay,
Yeah.
this is the way we've done it for 50 years. So this is the way you should do it now.
Yeah.
And, as long as you don't go down rabbit holes and conspiracy theories, I love that you guys are like, your generation goes and looks for a different way, because
Mm.
this doesn't have to be the only answer, right? There can be other
Exactly.
answers to solving these problems. I love that. But and now, actually, you brought me to a very nice pivot, because you just talked about your new company that you started. Um, so you offer. So I want to shift a little bit to talk about branding now. Now you offer something that's both ancient and cutting edge, right? So when
Yes.
some so what do you do? What do you wish they'd actually ask instead?
So what I do with my consultations, it's first of all, I want people to understand the concepts,
Yeah,
because I want everyone to carry the knowledge for the rest of their lives, not a nutrition consultation that you have a person saying you need to eat this, and that. No, you actually are responsible for understanding what you need to put into your body. That's your responsibility.
right,
Because if that is the fuel for your body, you need to understand if that food is good for you, which minerals um, are you in need. And I think that we are not taught um, in advocating for ourselves, meaning, and this happened to me a lot of times in the past. I went to the doctor and I would say, I want to do some blood analysis on this, and this. And the doctor would like look at me like, who are you to to ask me what do you need? But I was like, yeah, I know, because I have the knowledge. The only thing that I cannot do is blood analysis, because you need a GP to do that. And they hold a lot of power on that. But you have a lot of people right now thinking, okay, I do have these symptoms. The doctor is saying that I'm okay, but I don't feel okay. What do you do? And
yeah,
a lot of the old generation would be like, the doctor said. My generation, millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, they will be like, I don't agree with your answer. I will find my way through the answer. So one thing that I started to realize was that we have this precise clinical nutrition regarding nutrients, vitamins, and we need that. We
yeah,
need to understand, do you have some deficiency on iron, on B12? We need to address with food. You need to eat food that will address that deficiency, because supplements should be taken on a short term. You shouldn't depend on that every single day for the rest of your life. It's not sustainable, um, both money wise, because you will spend a lot of money on that, and it's not sustainable the way that you eat, because when you eat food, you don't have only iron. You have several different minerals and vitamins, and those interactions, and that's proven by science, those interactions will allow the food to be absorbed better.
right,
So I combined that, the clinical and precise nutrition, with the ancient wisdom of TCM. So TCM doesn't see things like you have a lack of iron, or you have a lack of vitamin B12. They see it in a different way. They see energetics, like, okay, you have yin deficiency. You don't have enough blood here. So you need to eat food that will allow you to produce blood, because that is something that we produce, blood.
yeah,
Okay. In that case, you need to eat this food. This is the intersection, right? Okay. But are you sure? And this is something that clinical nutrition doesn't look. You can eat whatever you want, but if you are not absorbing the food, then you are wasting money. People are taking vitamins, minerals, supplements that are so expensive, buying the best foods, the best superfoods. That is a term that I don't like, the superfoods, but people are investing a lot of money on food. And most likely they are not absorbing. And TCM, the first thing that sees is, are you digesting the food well, because if you are not, you can you can even ingest gold, you will not absorb. So I combine that. I combine the energetics, like what is the organ that you have that is a little bit weaker, and and it is a whole world. And I try to kind of simplify a little bit. But if you have a weak digestion, doesn't mean that spleen and stomach. So we need to go to the carbs a little bit, complex carbs, and mix with some veggie that are orange because it's the color. And when you talk this language for someone that didn't grow up in the Eastern society, it's like literally Chinese, most likely.
Yeah.
So, but I combine both because I want to make sure that the person is both nourished with the nutrients, but also the energetic, because you can eat something with the same amount of nutrients, but will be like too hot or too cold. And women have different symptoms like cold feet, weak digestion, cramps, and that is all associated with the type of food that you are eating. And diet trends are so dangerous nowadays. So I combine both, and I give a path, a language for people to understand along the way.
Yeah, no, no, I love that. And I love how you sort
Was
of,
that clear or was that confusing?
no, no, that I think it was clear. I love how
Okay.
you brought the two worlds together, right?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, okay, it's either this way or that way. You know,
Yeah.
there is a different way to do it. But that said, one of the things we talked about was you like to help people understand the why, right? But
Yes.
we live in a quick fix culture, right? So how do you
Yes.
market depth in a world that just wants instant solutions? Like even I face this. People are like, just give me the answer, right? Forget about everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that is a tricky question because it's hard. I think it's one of the challenges that I've been facing. But at the same time, I think there are still people out there that are curious about why. I think everything is about how you say things,
Yeah.
right? Um, it's how you project branding too. Look, I could give you the answer, and it's like I can give you the fish, or I can teach you how to fish. Which one do you prefer? And then you need to also consider something that is, who is your niche? Your The person that you are talking to is the person that want, wants and needs the answers, but with the foundation of knowledge, not the person that is trying to have the quick fix or the next trend. You need to be honest with yourself and say, that is not my audience. If you have like that person, oh, what is the next trend? No. And you are not going to please everyone, and you need to understand the person that you are talking to. And one thing that I realized when I was doing the marketing plan was I would be talking to myself probably 7 years ago. That was the person that wants to understand. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have you don't need a degree, right? You can simply have the knowledge, but is the person that, okay, why do I have cold feet? Why? Because that is something when you talk with women, you will have like more than 50%. Oh yeah, normally I have cold feet. Yeah, yeah. Okay, and do you have cramps during before a period and during your yeah, yeah, yeah. And but do you know why? No, no. But do you want to send? And some will say, yeah, yeah. Why is that? And when you start to give the why is happening, they get really interested. Like, okay, tell me more. And those are that people is your audience. So I think it's a little bit of also trial and error. I
Yeah.
didn't my background is not marketing, so it is something that I am very candid about it. Some things about marketing and brand I'm still learning, and it's also cultural, I would say, because I am from an European country, and one thing that I have to say, bro, and I have been saying this for years, Americans are great storytellers. Like you have you have the book, you know how to do it, and we know sometimes we do have the knowledge, but we don't know how to market ourselves. It is something that happens a lot, and that is something that I've been trying to learn along the way.
Well, I would say don't sell yourself short because I was just like you're going to put me out of business the way you laid that out, because you're absolutely right. You have
Thank you.
your niche, and you have to understand you're not going to please everyone. People often ask me, what do you do with a client who doesn't believe in branding? I'm like, nothing. Because if they're not invested in building their brand or understand the value
Yeah.
of it, I can't do anything to change that.
Yeah.
When they're ready, they may come back to me. But until
Yeah.
then, they'll just go do what they want to do. And that's okay. You don't have to convince everyone, right? You've got to
Yeah.
find the people. You've got to find your tribe. That's what building a brand is about,
True.
right? Because that ultimately it's about a sense of belonging, and a set of values and an understanding in terms of what your problem you're looking to solve. So no, I love the way you put that. So that was great. But so let me ask you though, building on that a little bit more, looking at your brand and content strategy, you're clearly you're much further ahead than you're giving yourself credit for. I'll say that again.
Thank you.
What story though about food therapy or your approach do you feel like you're still struggling to tell effectively?
I think that one thing that is really hard to understand for people, and that is what I'm focusing right now, especially on social media, it's the concepts. Concepts like yin and yang, people that do yoga would know that. But
Right.
regarding food and internal energy, because we associate TCM still with a lot of esoteric thinking, like this is not science. And I will tell you how much research papers are out there regarding TCM that it proves that it works. Um, and even is trying to transcribe that in this quantum level. Um, but the concepts. So if you grow up in China, Japan, terms like qi, yin and yang, um, shen, that is the mind, those things will be normal, right? That is something that you will associate with, oh yeah, my grandmother used to do this because she would tell me, you need to nourish your yin. Like if you are an inexperienced person that doesn't have any parents that were from that side of the globe, you will like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I need to nourish my in. What is in? w- I'm too young because then you people in this field start, oh yeah, your energy is up there, like your head energy is young. And you're like, my what? And you sound like cuckoo bananas.
Right.
And then yeah, and then again, then you sound like you are trying to evangelize a cult, and it's not. So you need to understand, you need to first to give this concept, like when you are at school, okay, what is in physics like, and even chemistry, what is a molecule, what is an atom? It's the same thing. And once you start doing the parallel, it starts to make sense. It is the thing that I'm still struggling and I'm addressing. That is okay, let's reverse engineer this here. So I'm not giving the solutions, and that's why I sometimes say I think that I'm doing social media wrong, to be honest, because I'm a proto Gen Z. So I am between millennials and Gen Z. So some traits of myself I will be 100% millennial, others I will be 100% Gen Z. And I feel that I'm not doing anything of that on social media. So I don't know. I have an approach, I have a vision, but then I'm like, but nobody's doing this. So I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm not giving the essence. I'm like going back like full school and where you need to learn the concepts. And yeah, most people will be like, why is she teaching these concepts? I don't want to learn about the in. I don't want to learn about the solution. And I was like, I will not give you a solution if you do not learn about the in first. So yeah, it's I think with time will tell if this approach works. Because if a person sees a video with a solution and wants to understand the backstory, just need to go back because I delivered that knowledge first. But yeah, time will tell that.
Yeah, and like you said a minute ago, you have to test and learn, right?
Yeah.
I always tell people that the greatest learning is doing. Otherwise, you can sit, you can research, you can talk to people, that
Yeah.
not, still do that. But until you actually go out and put yourself out there and talk to people,
Yes.
get feedback, see what's working, what's not working, you're never going to get to that, you know, product market fit, as they love to call it, right? Because that's
Yeah.
ultimately what, is going to get your business going. And I don't know any other way to do that. Even AI can't do that for you.
there is no code. That's the thing. You can talk with AI. I think everyone talks with AI, whatever you want to call it. I think everyone has a different name. It's a she, a he, a them. I don't know. But you can ask for like this cheat code, like how could I plan this? You can follow 100, 1,000 accounts and try to understand what they are doing. That it is the interesting thing. It might not work, because if you are trying to do something new, and I feel that I'm trying to do because that was the thing that I saw that was lacking. Some people would focus just in clinical, some doctors would explore just the TCM part. I decided to mix both, probably because of my background. But when you are trying to do something new, you need to kind of be brave enough and naive to try something that people are not used to, and be able to see that it can fail. Most likely it will fail, but it can also work. So,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And you're right, because there is a level of education required in terms of what you're doing, right?
yeah.
The people are in one camp or the other, and I'm going through a similar exercise right now where I'm not going to throw funnels at you and this and that and guarantee, which is what everybody else in the space is doing, right? So there is a ramp up period where it's like it will be slower, you will have
Hmm.
fewer clients, but the
Yeah,
ones you have will probably become evangelists. And like you said, if it works, there is that if. But if you're not willing to try it, you'll never figure out whether it's going to work or not, right? So
exactly. Yes.
market will tell you whether there
Yes.
is one there or not. But you have to be brave enough to put yourself out there to be able to figure that out or get that answer, right? So yeah,
Yes.
and I love that, and I think you will learn as you go, and as long as you're paying attention and not pretending like I know
No,
gonna work. You've got to and getting feedback is great. The more people you talk to, the more you learn. So
you need to be very self-conscious on that. Like put ego aside and understand, why is this working, or do I need to change the way that I'm delivering the message? Not the content itself, it's the way that you speak to. Because the way that you speak to a person that is 12 years old is not the same to explain the concepts to your mother. So you need to change and to learn and to understand, who are you trying to right now to educate. So it's a lot of things. When you are a solopreneur, there are so many things you need to focus and to understand, what is my priority right now. It doesn't mean that in the future you are not going to target that audience, but right now, those people that you are trying to talk to, you need to be very, very specific.
yeah, true. And again, by doing, you will learn what that is, right? In terms of the
Yes.
language, what resonates, what people are gravitating towards, what's working, what's not working. So yeah, completely part of the journey. Um, so now the other thing you mentioned to me that was interesting was you mentioned learning to play again during your recovery, right? So what does that actually look like in your day to day for someone who's rebuilding their relationship with work?
Oh, um, you know what? When I was working, I would have this very strict routine every single day, even if I would do different things. Um, you basically have the same working hours, 9 to 5 or 7 to 4, whatever it is, and you don't have margins for um, more than that. Right now, I started to understand the flow of what I'm doing. So I have goals, I have metrics that I set to myself, but I also have, and I am human. And on top of that, I know that we have this narrative right now, but it is something that we need to bring it up as women. But we have cycles, and we are very dependent on them because we do not have the same energy, and we are raised to have, like, oh, you need to always be with contentment and very creative. For men, that happens. We are hostages of our hormones
Right.
sometimes, and that means that creative work will not happen in one phase, but structural work will. So that was one thing that I started to embrace. Like, it's okay to be a woman to have a cycle and to embrace the several phases that you because until now it was not seen as something pretty, you know? Even women would be like, yeah, it is how it is. That was the first. The second is more related like to your soul, to your emotion, like what am I feeling to do today? Because sometimes this happens. I'm like playing a guitar, creating a song. I'm like, I'm not into it. Like everything I can play, but it's like no, I'm not here. And I want to actually work on some videos. So the work that I had scheduled for tomorrow, I can do today and reverse the things. So it's follow a little bit where you are at and what you want to do. I would call intuitive work. I just remembered that sentence, so I don't know if that exists, but intuitive work. When you are a solopreneur, you can do that. When you have a team to manage, I think that you don't have much bandwidth in certain things, but I would love to hear others to confirm that or not. But allow yourself to have that freedom that you probably had when you were a teenager, that you were saying, okay, right now I need to study math. I don't want to, so I'm going to do the science project. You know, those little things. And allow yourself to have a different routine. Like today, I want to have a slow morning. Today, I want to start working just after lunch because being busy doesn't mean that you are going to be productive. I was very used to do both, to be honest, leads to burnout, yes, but it also leads to this phase that if you end the day and you don't remember what you did, for me, that's not meaningful. I like to end the day and have this precise description, an idea of what I accomplished today. Even if it is just one, two things, if I have done those right, I don't need to do them again. And I enjoy them. So I think that's playing and doing the work at the same time.
Yeah, no, I love that because it's like kind of finding, and I think everyone has to do this at their own pace on their solopreneur journey. Just like we were talking about learning from the market, you also have to learn from your own rhythms, right? And I mean,
Yes.
of course, with women, it is very different. You have your cycles and your hormones. Yes, I know, having being married to one, how that works. But also you have circadian rhythms on top of that, right? So you have to
Yes.
also pay attention to and don't. I love how you sort of embrace the things you cannot fight or change and work with them and turn them into advantages, right? Versus
Yes.
the work culture where it's just like, no, you're getting on this treadmill and you're going to do it,
Yes.
9 hours a day because that's the way it is. And maybe that's okay for what it is, but the whole point of being a solopreneur is not to put on a different set of handcuffs, right? It's to break
No.
off still. Now, I think I love that. And I honestly, I don't know any other way to do that other than sort of finding you have to go through the process to find your rhythm again, right? And it'll take 3 months, 6 months, but the key, I agree, is make sure you're not doing busy work because it's very
Yes.
easy to fill your time with doing things that will not move the needle, will not help your business. You'll just burn out and you'll be frustrated that nothing is happening right at the other end. So
Exactly.
that's the only thing
Exactly.
to be mindful of.
And allow yourself to be like a little bit free to allow things to come in because sometimes when you don't have ideas, when you are not into something, because those days happen in any area that you work. You might be a solopreneur, you might be an artist. You will have days that you will be like, oh wait, does this mean that I cannot do anything else right now because you feel so stuck? Allow yourself to feel those emotions. I've learned to embrace all the emotions. Don't um run away from sadness, from grief, from frustration. Feel those and transform those into something. And sometimes it's when you have your haha moment and something like suddenly you are inspired by something. You can only do that if you have some freedom and also some flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, you can't dream if you're spending 24 hours a day getting your brain occupied by,
Yeah.
keeping it busy. You have to give it a break
Yes.
to find that
Yes.
the freedom. So now I love that. So tell me, what's something about you're still early in your journey. So what's something about running your business that you're still figuring out and wish someone could just give you a playbook for?
I'm not the type of person that likes when people give me like an answer or a playbook. What I'm still trying to figure it out, it's indeed how to land the message in the best way possible for the audience.
Got it.
I think it takes more time. One thing that I wished I would know, hmm, I think how social media is so different between channels. So before, and I will give you some context on this.
Yeah.
I was pretty when I decided to resign and enter this world, I was prepared for a lot of things. I knew that would be hard. I knew that I need to be resilient. Things would not be at a face pace. I did the prep talk to myself. I was not that naive. But one thing that I still struggle because I was like this person, proto Gen Z, that didn't live much on social. And I really enjoy that. Like, I didn't go to any social media channels. And suddenly I had to embrace all of them to understand them and to do research because I will reach a point that probably I will need to choose this and this. But until you choose, you kind of need to, okay, let's explore all. Probably one thing that I would like in the guidebook is like how to crack social media, the platforms. It's for me, it's still like headaches because it's so different. If it is TikTok, it's one way, but if it is Instagram, it's another way. And for some audience, it's better Instagram, and it is so exhaustive to be on social media.
Oh my God, yes. If I had never had to be in social media, I would do that right away. Like, I'm with you. It's like, I don't, power to the people who say they enjoy it. I'm not sure anyone actually enjoys it, but because
Yeah.
it's like a treadmill, right? It's like a hamster wheel. And it's like content lives for like an hour and then it's dead and boring and then you got to get the next one. So if you could offer one piece of advice to someone who's wanting to start their solopreneur journey, what would you tell them?
Do it right now. Don't wait. Don't wait. And don't don't overthink, to be honest. If you feel it inside of you, and if you have been feeling that for a while, you have the answer already.
Right? Take the leap, right? And the net will
Ye-
appear. But I always tell people, yeah,
yes. Yeah, yeah. And life is too short to be honest, to simply wait for the moment, or when you have this voice inside of you, always listen to it. Always. Don't ever second guess it.
yeah, no, that's good advice. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, Joanna, that we haven't covered?
I don't know. I really enjoy our conversation. I think that we could talk for hours. So I don't know. A lot of things we didn't cover, but it was a great time.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. And maybe one day we'll start doing those 12-hour podcasts that I believe are really popular now. I don't even
Mhm.
understand how anyone has time to listen to a 12-hour podcast, but
12 hours?
yeah, I think with Lex Friedman who did like a 10-hour podcast, and people are doing like 2-3 hour podcasts, which I'm like still like, okay. I mean, power to them if people are listening.
Yeah, I think will depend on the conversation, right? And if people are at the same frequency that you are at, then 2 hours will go by and you
True.
don't notice even. It will depend. It's like talking to a friend. I think you need to embrace that because sometimes seeing and listen to a podcast, it's like, yeah, right now my friend is working because yeah, I don't have right now a friend that is available. So I will have my podcast friend.
True. Yeah, you're right. And I hope people do that more than they do spend time with AI and think that's a friend, because that's not a good trend. And it's a good way to bring us to our rapid fire round. So I'm just going to throw 5 fun questions at you and give us whatever comes to
Oh,
mind. Okay.
okay.
If your business was a TCM herbal formula, what would the secret ingredient be?
Ginger.
What was that?
Ginger.
Oh, ginger. Okay. Okay, I love that. Coming from India, that resonates. If your personal brand had a flavor profile, what would it be?
Rainbow.
Oh, I love that. Fill in the blank. In my business, I refuse to dash no matter how popular it is.
I refuse to follow trends that do not make any sense and are not aligned with with my purpose and the purpose of the business.
Love that. Complete this sentence. The wellness industry would be so much better if everyone just stopped dash.
Trying to be popular and scream nonsense.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
a lot of
Simplify.
yeah, simplify, right? And stop selling
Simplify.
the dream, right? Versus giving. I like how you go with the why. So I think that's more, little more of the why and a little less of the instant fixes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if your solopreneur journey was a song you'd write, what genre would it be?
Oh, oh, that's the best question ever. Uh, Pop, and I will
Yeah,
tell you why.
yes.
Because pop is very flexible, you know, and it can allow different genres within. You can have indie pop, you can have pop rock, you can have punk pop rock, and TCM is about that. Is adapting to the person and to the different people. So, and the pop world, I do believe, is that the pop god.
Well, and it's a perfect way to bring your science and art together too, right? To those well.
Yes.
I love that. That's a great way to end the show. Joanna, thank you so much for this lovely, wonderful conversation and for all the insights and wisdom that you shared today.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Joanna's journey from Microsoft engineer to TCM practitioner reveals something profound about building a business that actually aligns with who you are, not who you think you should be. Here's what I'm taking away from this conversation and how I'd apply it if you're solo in scaling. First, build your biology, not the calendar. Joanna's shift was honoring cycles and energy. Some days are for structure, some for creativity, and busy doesn't equal productive. As a solopreneur, that's a design choice. Try a 2-track week. Pre-schedule maker blocks when you typically have creative energy and manager blocks when you don't. End each day by naming the one meaningful move you made. That is a better KPI than hours logged. Second, teach the why to the right who. She's unapologetically building for people who want understanding, not hacks. Teach me to fish beats hand me a fish. That is a positioning choice. If your work requires education, make concepts your content. Define the mental models first, then show how they solve everyday problems. You won't win the instant fix crowd, and that's good. Depth creates retention and referrals because people can finally explain why what you do works. Third, use a both and operating system. Joanna combines clinical precision, deficiencies, labs, real food with TCM energetics, digestibility, warmth, coolness, capacity to absorb. Translate that to business. Pair your data with intuition. Let analytics guide where you place bets. Let live signals, energy, client resonance decide how you deliver. Most solo businesses fail not for lack of data, but for ignoring their own signals. Fourth, opt out of the algorithm treadmill without opting out of growth. Platforms shift weekly, your voice shouldn't. Hold your tone, test channels for signal, and keep what aligns. Take the meat, throw away the bones. Build owned assets, newsletters, long-form explainers. That rewards curiosity over dopamine. Finally, start now. If the voice inside has been nudging you, you probably already have your answer. Make that first small offer you can honor this week. The market and your body will tell you the next step. Thanks for listening to Unfiltered Solopreneur. If you got value from today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another solopreneur who needs this message. Until next time, keep breaking free from the corporate grind. And remember, your story is your most powerful asset. Live solo or die corporate.